Plans for the Third Temple. This is SkyWatchTV News for Tuesday, July 28th, 2015. I'm Derek Gilbert. Plans for the proposed Third Temple in Jerusalem were released by the Temple Institute over the weekend. They released on Sunday, in fact, Tisha B'Av, which is an annual day of fasting and mourning for the destruction of the first two temples in Jerusalem. The Temple Institute raised over $100,000 on a crowdfunding website to develop the architectural drawings and 3D tour that you're witnessing here. They're now looking for donors to help them begin breeding red heifers in Israel. According to chapter 19 of the book of Numbers, Jews believe they're commanded to sacrifice an unblemished red heifer in order to restore the world to a state of biblical purity before the third temple can be constructed. Now, prophetically, the 70th week of Daniel, which is described in chapter 9 of the book of Daniel, tells us that at some future date, the Antichrist, when he comes to power, will put a stop to sacrifice halfway through that 70th week, or 70th prophetic week, 3.5 years after concluding a covenant with many. Now, for there to be a place to stop the sacrifices, there has to be a place where the sacrifices are taking place, and the only place the sacrifices can be done is in the temple, on the Temple Mount, which is currently occupied by the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Dome of the Rock. Other prerequisites to fulfilling this prophecy have already been fulfilled. The restoration of Israel as a nation, the reconstitution of the Sanhedrin. Most of the utensils needed for temple service have been produced. All that remains now is for the actual temple construction. The political fallout, of course, from moving the Al-Aqsa Mosque out of the way or destroying it will be intense, but prophetically, if you believe in a future fulfillment of Daniel chapter 9, there are some who think that chapter 9 of Daniel simply refers to Antiochus Epiphanes in the 2nd century BC. But if you're looking for a future fulfillment, as we do, this will take place. And it appears the days are drawing closer. The political situation in the Middle East, for example, the rise of the Islamic State, could create circumstances that result in the Temple Mount being cleared for construction. The Obama administration admits the United States will defend Iran against Israeli sabotage of its nuclear program. Secretary of State John Kerry, in a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing yesterday, indirectly admitting that under the deal signed with Iran, the U.S. would be obligated to help Iran defend itself against sabotage like the Stuxnet virus, which Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon sort of admitted a few years ago was the work of the Israeli government. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Middle East, Christianity nearing extinction there. The media finally woke up and took notice of this last year, but according to one analyst, that was just the final year of a decade of hell, or the culmination of a decade of hell, following the fall of Saddam Hussein. Assyrian Christians have been nearly wiped out because of the unrest in Iraq after Saddam's fall. Christians there are catching it from all sides. While there are some Christian militia units protecting their settlements, none of the other groups in the area, the Turks, the Kurds, Arabs, whether Sunni or Shia, the Islamic State, want the Christians around. And while the situation here is far better than it is there, the treatment that our brothers and sisters in the Middle East are receiving is coming here eventually. With few exceptions, we can just see a taste of it now. With few exceptions, for example, Bill Maher, a guy that I agree with about almost nothing, most liberals, progressives in the U.S. direct far more anger at American Christians than they do at Middle Eastern Muslims, where the death penalty is considered appropriate treatment for homosexuals. But we're dealing with hatred that has a supernatural origin here, so it's not going to make rational sense. From Nepal, a story of human sacrifice. Nepal borders on China. A father there admits to kidnapping a 10-year-old boy and sacrificing him to drive evil spirits away from the man's 18-year-old son. A shaman told this 35-year-old man that his son, who was chronically ill, was possessed by an evil spirit that required human meat to leave. God told Noah that the spilling of human blood was absolutely forbidden, and that there would be a reckoning required for anyone who shed human blood. Even from an animal that shed human blood, a reckoning would be required. And then God reiterated the point with Moses. Something special about human blood, and that's why it should not ever be shed. The blood is the life, but it's more than just oxygenating tissue. There's something spiritual about it, which is why so many false religions that worship the fallen angels who rebelled against God, required human sacrifice. And here in the West, in our technologically advanced society, we've almost turned the shedding of blood into an automated process. And I'm not just talking about the tens of millions of unborn children that have been aborted in almost assembly line fashion here after the legalization of abortion. Visionaries in the world of technology like Elon Musk of Tesla Motors, Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, physicist Stephen Hawking, adding their voices to a call to ban autonomous weapons. More than 1,000 robotics experts signed an open letter warning that laws or lethal autonomous weapons systems could become the AK-47s of the future. You see, artificial intelligence and the development of it will make this kind of an arms race almost inevitable. Terrorists or criminal gangs likely to work on developing weapons that they can use to strike at their enemies. You can almost be sure that the militaries around the world are doing the same. Because unlike nuclear weapons, it doesn't require hard-to-find or costly materials to develop. In fact, a teen in Connecticut was arrested over the weekend after posting a video to YouTube showing a commercially obtainable drone, something you can buy over the internet for $100, fitted out with a handgun, a semi-automatic weapon. Now, if an 18-year-old engineering student can figure out how to do this in his backyard, you can bet that a nation-state with a black budget behind it can come up with something far more deadly. And then couple that with artificial intelligence, giving the computer the autonomy to determine who gets shot and when. And this is coming. In fact, a new report just issued by the U.S. Army says the future of warfare will be drones and enhanced humans, or super soldiers. In fact, they conclude that the critical challenge facing military planners in the 21st century is successfully managing and integrating teams or swarms of robots that would act independently or collectively in a variety of missions. And the younger generation, our children, our grandchildren, will think this is absolutely normal. Almost 90% of American kids, according to a survey, have a smartphone by the time they reach age 11. In high school, 4 out of 5 teens carry a wireless device all the time. And a survey indicates that their wireless device, their tech, is second only to their clothing in determining their social status. More important than the car that they drive or whether or not they play sports. It's the tech that determines their social status. That's why we spend so much attention on the transhumanist movement here at SkyWatchTV. We see the appeal of technology and the lure of the lie that salvation will be found in a silicon chip. Interesting story from Russia. Ancient cone head discovered there. Strangely shaped skull connected to a skeleton excavated at a site called Russia's Stonehenge in central Russia near the border with Kazakhstan. UFO enthusiasts, of course, pointing to this as evidence of alien life on Earth. Archaeologists say the bones belong to a woman who lived about 2,000 years ago, probably belonged to the people called the Sarmatians, which is an Iranian tribal group related to the Scythians and the Alans. Misshapen skulls, though, have been found all over the world. Peru, of course, you know about the Paracas skulls. Mexico, Central Asia now, of course. Africa, Australia. Here in North America, the Chinook Indians of the Northwest, the Choctaw Indians in the Southeast, were known to practice head binding or cranial deformation. The question is, why? Who or what were they trying to emulate? What prompted them to bind the heads of their children to create these cone head shapes? Now, there may be no connection here. This is just sheer speculation on my part, and uneducated speculation at that. But this figurine recovered from ancient Mesopotamia near the ancient city-state of Eridu, believed to be about 6,500 to 7,000 years old. And according to the British Museum's website, this little statue, this little figurine, this little statue is typical for that time and place. Why the cone-shaped heads? Why the almond-shaped eyes? Why no ears? We may never know, but while they may be non-human in origin, I'm fairly certain that they are not extraterrestrial. In fact, a deeper study into the meaning of the Hebrew word nakash, translated as serpent in the book of Genesis, indicates what Eve saw may have been a divine, perhaps glowing, radiant, supernatural being of serpentine appearance. Now, that requires a little more study than we have time for today, but I submit that explanation for the conehead phenomenon, the global conehead phenomenon, Makes more sense than the typical History Channel explanation. Looking for an explanation of the prophetic indicators and their soon fulfillment, make sure you watch SkyWatch TV tonight. Prophecy expert Terry James is Gary Stearman's guest on SkyWatch TV, which airs tonight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 9:30 Eastern on the Christian Television Network. That's DirecTV Channel 376, Dish Network 267, Glory Star Satellite Channel 117, and it streams to the internet on the Christian Television Network's website, ctnonline.com. You can log on to their website, look for the link to the live stream. If you miss it, you'll be able to see it tomorrow on the SkyWatch TV Roku channel. If you have a Roku account, log on, search the channel store for SkyWatch TV and find us. And if you prefer, you can just log on to skywatchtv.com/Roku, where we have posted complete instructions on how to add our channel to your account. If you have comments, questions, or suggestions about this or about our weekly program, please send them to me, dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.